So when you go to a carnival, or the fair, or the circus, it all represents the symbolism of the circle of the animal houses of the zodiac wheel. So the ancient societies worshipped the sun because the sun gave life to the plant kingdom as well as to the animal kingdom. So one of the symbols that are associated with the pagans is the worship of the sun. And that's exactly why they also have the worship of the animal kingdom as well as the plant kingdom. So this is why the ancient Druidic pagans worshipped at Stonehenge, which was the pie or the circle that represented the worship of the fertility of the sun and the moon. So all of these ancient pagan fertility rituals involved the aspect of fertility, taking drugs and drinking alcohol, and of course worshiping the sun and the moon. They would ignite fires for the fertility of Baal, and they would always choose a victim or a willing sacrifice to hold during their festivals. The fertility worship of the sun during Beltane is still proof of this to this very day. They paint themselves all in red blood and are usually naked and have the act of the ancient sexual orgies they would perform. And sometime during the night they would actually cut down the maple tree. And they would dress up as animals that were the representation of the fertility of nature. And this is why the Illuminati today still dress up in the animal masks at their parties that we hear about at the Rothschilds dynasty, as in Eyes Wide Shut. And of course, this ancient Illuminati tradition is still seen today in Hollywood movies and films. And of course, we all know how the Illuminati loves to hide behind their masks, as well as their hats, because they are the Mad Hatters. And of course, they have fooled the public to participate in their ancient fertility rituals, which is exactly why we dress up in the masks and the crazy hats. So the next time that you go to a fertility festival, like a carnival or a fair or the Burning Man, for example, you'll find that they will offer and have a stand where they'll paint your face, because that's exactly what the ancient pagans did in their fertility rituals of sacrifice. So like I said, that's why all of the fairs and circuses, Mardi Gras, and the carnival are all about sex. They're all about the tits and the ass. And of course, that's why you'll also find the painted naked bodies. So now you'll understand why the girls are participating in these ancient fertility rituals by showing their breasts to the crowd in exchange for beads. So the beads are the fertility balls, and they're exactly like a pearl necklace. And I think we all know exactly what a real pearl necklace is. In fact, the very act of putting on a round necklace around your head is symbolic of the act of sex, the male entering the female. So it's the same symbolism we find in the power symbol, for example, or the act of sex that we find in the games that we find at carnivals and fairs. By the way, what do you think Mardi Gras means? Mardi Gras means Fat Tuesday. It's referring to the fatty or the fat in the milk from the goddess. And of course, all the ancient goddesses were known as cows or bulls. So Fat Tuesday is about the fatty of the goddess. In other words, it's talking about the fatty, which is her vagina. Which is why Justin knows why it's called a fatty.
Stop, let me get a good look at it. Ooh, so thick, now I know what to call it, a fatty. Thick, now I know what to call it, a fatty.
So Tuesday is the Mari, like as in marring somebody with the red of Mars, the god of war, like Marduk, who was the solar calf, and of course the red bloody god of fertility and war, Mars. But as I always say, it always goes back to the ancient goddess, which of course comes from the mare, or the Mari of the sea, from the primordial sea goddess, which of course is why the deepest trench in the world under the ocean, or the deepest gap or vagina, is called the Mariana Trench. And so now you know why we have the sexy mermaids. Thus, she is the maid of water. And so now you'll understand why we find the sex magic within the Merkaba. And so now you'll understand why America was born upon the Virgin Mary of Maryland. Which brings us to the virgin bloody goddess herself, Mary, or Bloody Mary. Thus Mary is the Mars of March, which is why Mary had a little lamb, which means that the season gave birth to the new spring time of the new year. So the fertility of Mother Earth, or Mother Mary during springtime, is the whole meaning behind Mardi Gras. So Mardi Gras was actually once known as the Fat Ox, which was the bull that was paraded down the streets before being sacrificed. And of course, this is still practiced this very day, like this bull being paraded down New Orleans of Mardi Gras. And you'll notice the steam coming out of the nose of the bull, because he is the brazen bull, which was an ancient sacrificial torture device. And in Bali, we see the same ritualistic sacrifice of the bull that is paraded down the streets. It is the Holocaust, or the burnt offering. So the parade is a fertility festival that's built upon death or sacrifice. And of course, this is what parade means. The etymology is about the para, the two, the pair, kind of like a paradigm or a paradox, the parables and the paranormal. So the parade is a parting, the splitting from the old to the new, which is the meaning behind party. It is a parting. So now you understand the whole zoological, zodiac, and fertility springtime rituals of these parades. And since the parade is about the zodiac wheel, we have to have the character, or the jester, the character of nature, or the green man, which is exactly why the parade is about parading the green man, or the ox, or the bull, and of course, the jokers, or the jesters. So the next time that you're at Mardi Gras, you'll know why they hang the beads in the fertility tree of life. And a long day and night of fertility rituals is exactly like a long day and night of having sex, which is why after all of the festivities, you're gonna have to clean up after yourself. By the way, the next time that you're at a carnival or a fair, and you participate in a pie throwing contest, you'll know exactly the truth behind this fertility ritual, which of course is why they're made from the cream pies, thus the cream pie of the goddess. Because this fertility ritual is all about shoving your face into the pie. And we find this same ritual in weddings, where the wedding cake is smashed in the face. So she's just making sure that he can handle a little cake or pie shoved in his face. Oh, and by the way, if you're letting your kids go to these wet and wild foam parties, I'll give you one guess what this fertility ritual that is made for the teenagers is really all about. Just another form of ancient fertility rituals. Exactly like the confetti we find on New Year's Eve or at Mardi Gras or at a wedding, like when they throw the confetti of rice, which represents the grain or the harvest, the fertility of Mother Nature. And of course, it's the grains or the wheat that makes the flour that makes the cakes. which is why the cake is a symbol of the fertility of nature. So the cake holds the spirit of the zodiac wheel. It is the house of meat or the house of bread, which is why the cake represents the baby. And of course, this is exactly why we have the expression that she has a bun in the oven when she is pregnant. In other words, she has a baby in her womb, which is her oven. And like all Illuminati rituals, we have to have the sacrifice or the burnt offering, which is exactly why we bake the cake as a holocaust or a burnt offering, and then we poke, slice, and stab it with a knife, and then we consume it, eating the flesh or the spirit of the nature of the goddess through the offspring of the child. And we all know that witchcraft and Satanism includes the ritual of using candle, which is why on your birthday you have the ritual of worshiping the god of fire, the sun god, on its annual journey on your birthday. And this is why you have the ritual of blowing out the lights and burning down the pillars or the candles. And of course, this is why we saw this ancient ritual on the September 11th attacks, where we had the burning towers that burned out like ashes and then crumbled to the ground. They were the pillars or the candles, because September 11th, like I've said, I'm the one that discovered that September 11th was the very day that Henry Hudson sailed into Manhattan Bay. So yes, September 11th was a birthday ritual sacrifice. And of course, the World Trade Center was all about Wall Street, or the bull, because Wall Street is where they do the corruption of trading, the corruption of commerce. And of course, the commodities is all about the commodities of nature, which is why 9/11 was all about the stock market scams. Thus, the towers were the constructions made for the human sacrifice, where all of the commodity trading is done for the harvest. Thus, the sacrifice or the holocaust of the burnt offering. And of course, it's just like the sacrifice of the golden calf, where Aaron made the Israelites consume the bull. Thus, they were consuming their god, the bull, just like consuming the flesh and drinking the blood of the bull of Jesus. So this is why the Jews and the Hebrews have the ritual of eating the unleavened and the leavened bread, which represents the birth and death of nature, when Mother Nature is equal or parallel or level, thus the unleavened. So it's time for the Jews to consume and eat the bread of the goddess of Mary, or the marzipan. So during the springtime of the Passover, the Jews eat what's called the marzipan, thus Mars of March, an ancient harvest fertility ritual of consuming the wheat or the fruits and the grains and the harvest of nature, thus still practicing this ancient pagan ritual of the sacrifice and consuming it. And of course, Saturnael or Cronus ate his own children and consumed them, and he was chopped into many pieces and slaughtered and slain, exactly like Osiris, who was also chopped into pieces, exactly like the Sumerian story of the ancient Tiamat goddess, the dragon goddess who was slayed by Marduk. So like I said, the death worshippers live on today, and that's why at the Illuminati party at the Rothschilds' mansion, on the table they had a decapitated and chopped up baby. And of course, that's the symbolism on the Beatles album of Yesterday and Today, representing the chopped up baby that represents the spirit of nature. So that's why at the Boston Bull Tea Party, we find the slicing and the dicing, and of course, we find the symbolism of the chopped up bodies.